I've had this year before.
Shirt, you already done it.
This shirt is yeah, not just friends of mine. I'm going to Australia and I'm going to yeah, it's amazing. Making any business?
Really only just again. I've been fucking too much on to sell mine.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much effort it takes to get it ready.
Oh,
It's good for me to do it and eventually out.
that kind of gives you some feeling for what our sellers are supposed to be.
Yeah.
But yet you don't want to have too much.
Yeah, no, that's right. I really don't want to go there. It's really tough. I'm getting I did a couple of open houses on this weekend.
Yeah.
And you know Andrew Johnson?
No.
I only know her through email.
Yes. Right. Good morning. Let's get started. Good morning. Who said that?
Morning.
Sorry, I had a little technology glitch as we got going, but past it now. Today is a CE class, so if you want credit, this needs to go around. I'm going to start it with Simon. Make sure you sign it before you leave. Okay? Here's a pen. You can go with it too. And thank you, Kim Mitchell. Last minute, Kim Mitchell's home, I guess, sick. For those that see her on Facebook. I don't know why you put that on Facebook. I'm sick.
Is that where you saw it?
I ate this food. I don't get all that. I just don't get it.
Right.
We have some visitors and guests here today. If we could just hang on here, I'm going to put this up just to be a relaxing little photo while we're doing this.
Nice.
Anyone here visiting or here for the first time? Oh, two back there. Hi. You want to just say your name really quick? And are you guests or visiting or joined us? All the above? You're visiting guests, and if you want to remain anonymous, that's fine. So we have a couple guests here.
No, both Jennifers.
Both Jennifers?
Yeah.
Jennifers are the same office. Different last name?
Clark.
Good. Okay, well, welcome. Glad to have you. Let's see. Oh, Chelsea, introduce yourself. Or Dennis, Chelsea. Those were for Chelsea.
Yeah. Does anyone know Chelsea?
Oh yeah.
You guys-
Yeah.
Okay, so big news here. We let Paul and Denise know, but I am going to be leaving the home warranty world. And I thought, who would be a great person to join the Freedom, and Chelsea was the first person that came to mind. So I actually gave her a call, and we've been chatting the last year and a half. She's been, since she's been
We
gone.
actually met here,
We
right
actually
here
did.
in this room.
Yeah.
Right.
Ironically enough.
So I gave her a call and I was like, hey, how should I come back to the warranty world? And she says, with Freedom? I'm like, yeah. And so literally I made a phone call to our owners and they hired her on the spot. So, because we know she's that great. So Chelsea's going to be working for Freedom. I'm going to be moving on and going to the title world. I'll be going to Type 4 Title here in Lake Oswego. So I hope to connect with you guys as well. But please, give everything to Chelsea and the love and support. You guys have been phenomenal to me, and my favorite office. You guys are just so great. But Chelsea's an amazing person. She has tons of industry experience, and she's got all the tools that I have and some more. So she'll be able to serve you guys really well.
And just a little back history, Chelsea was a Landmark rep.
Right.
And we brought Dennis in as a threat to Chelsea. Because Dennis just kind of showed
She
up.
got so scared she had a baby.
I got so scared. I had a baby.
But in kidding, but that's how they met. Is Chelsea was Landmark here, what Dennis has been for us, right? And then she went on maternity leave, and Landmark kind of fell apart a little bit. Honestly, I'll just say it that way. And Chelsea went on maternity leave at the same time, and Dennis kind of stepped in, and now it's kind of fun, the full circle thing that's going on here. So welcome, Chelsea. Good to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to see all these familiar faces.
So-
So, yeah, Friday, is that the?
Yeah, so Friday's last day, so, contact information or phone number stays the same, so Chelsea will just take over it, and then, she'll have her visitor cards and all her information out there, so you'll be able to contact her and email her as well,
So goodbye, Dennis, but welcome.
It's just a quick commute.
Yeah. And welcome, Chelsea. It's good to have you back in,
Thank you.
around in the industry. So it's good. She was great. I mean, her and Dennis in the home warranty have just been fabulous to work with and very, very helpful. And probably filtered and tempered a lot of stuff that we didn't have to deal with. So thank you. Moving on. Yes.
Yeah, good morning. Hey, I want to introduce Travis Smith, or you can call him Tyler, like I did this morning. Travis Tyler is new with us.
Okay, in the building here?
He will be here a lot. Right now, he's kind of doing some training over at the other office
Okay.
in the Lincoln Center, but he's going to hang out with us, come to these meetings. He'll be doing continuing ed as well. Came most recently from Movement Mortgage, and we're really happy to have him on board.
Okay, so Movement Mortgage, which office were you at?
It's kind of a funny story, but so I was with Eagle Home Mortgage, and then they got bought out by Movement Mortgage in February, and then in,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so about, I don't know, a month and a half ago, they decided to move from Hunziker's, where the Eagle was, over
Yeah.
to a place in like Oswego, but they said we're not gonna have an office till September, so my office is kind of.
Vince Kingston's used to be there?
Yeah,
Okay.
I worked on Vince's team for 2 years.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, definitely,
Okay.
I've been in the business for 6 years, so been around, and just second week here across country, and.
That's exciting, Tyler.
Yeah.
Tyrod, whatever.
Travis, right? It's Travis.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, Travis.
you know, you totally screwed that up.
We ordered him a name tag, I don't know what we
Yeah.
ordered it to say, but we'll just go with however that goes.
Good. And you want to plug your little classes?
Yeah, so after your meeting today, we've got a CD class on being a referral partner. So it's a little bit different format for us. Ryan and Lori and I are all gonna be up there, and we're just gonna be talking about things that work and don't work, things that we've seen, and we're gonna ask you all to be really involved, right? And just, again, you always hear me say, all the CE, we want it to be, how do you get more business, right? How do you serve your clients better? So that will be the theme, but it won't be program specific like most of the stuff we talk about.
And this class is open to all realtors today. You're aware of that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay.
I'm just telling them because they're here.
Okay. Yeah, great. It is so convenient having it in the building. It really is. So you've done a good job on everything you've handled so far. So thanks.
Yeah.
Give them a shot.
Thank you all.
Come back to you in a second there. Anyone else that's new or visiting first time? I think we got everybody. Okay. The crowd's still thin versus what it has been, but that will change in about a month. Can you believe it's August 6th? Halloween's inside of our 3-month window.
I'm unlocking loans that will close after football season starts.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
We can have that Halloween party here.
What Halloween party?
At
At your house, Tom. Yeah, we'll send everybody to your house. Yeah.
Starbucks calls August Pumpkin Spice Eve. Next month it kicks in.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm not trying to freak you out or be too distracted or too laid back for those that are here for actually some class training. But if you look out there, you'll see some leaves turn red.
No.
Uh-huh.
I ignored that.
Yeah, and you can drive around, and I'm surprised how much that's already going on.
Oh,
So. Anyway, so we've already announced the upcoming class this week. CCM becoming a strong partner today, referral partner, and then also this week's tool class at 10 a.m. on here is how to write up an offer. That Thursday at 10. So those that might just want to know some tricks and tips and learn more about writing an offer and how to do that, feel free to come. It's to be in the theater. We all fit there. Okay. One, I'm going to trip or something. I'm going to segue to Derek Warren for a little bit of. Yep. So Derek.
So for those of you that know, we do not pay a recruiting bonus at all because we like agents to come to our company because you're happy. But we are going to do a contest for the next 60 days that you get a chance to win a free trip. 2-day getaway, Paul. Is that right?
Yeah, 2 nights at any World Mark
Two-night
Resort.
getaway.
Where?
For anybody that refers somebody to me, you're going to get to go in a drawing. And the only thing I ask is if you could just talk to the person first and make sure it's okay for me to call them, because as you know, nobody likes to be cold called by recruiters.
Yeah, just
It
don't
doesn't
send
go
them a
well.
list of the MLS.
Okay, I don't expect you to sell the company or anything, just see it, and if they're interested in hearing more about More Realty, I can take it from there. Anybody that does join the company that you refer to us is going to get a $75 Amazon gift card. And as well as the trip, there's gonna be a pool of prizes. I think we decided, what, $300 Amazon gift cards?
Yeah,
That you
like
can pick
first,
from?
second, third, we're gonna have you'll be entered in a drawing, if you just give a name,
Yep,
and out it will draw, and the first prize is 2 nights at any World Mark Resort, anywhere you wanna go.
and then we're gonna do a few other prizes after that. So for people that don't join, if refer them, you still can win something. Just shoot me an email, send me a text, or give me a call, give me the information, I'll go from there.
Yeah,
Okay.
just wanna do something a little fun to kind
Yep.
of
Kind of
make
reward
it on top of your
people that
mind, to
actually
kind of
doing
send some
it.
people over. I wanna just touch on that, we used to have an incentive program for recruiting, but one, it was only a couple people took advantage of it, so it really didn't pencil out for management and all that. And two, I think it's Chris Angelo, he was able to talk to somebody recently and says, I'm just taking my time because I like being here, and that's much more valuable than what's in it for you, you know what I mean? So we've not had really incentive programs for a year and a half now or something like that.
Tough, longer than that,
But we
brother.
just wanna do something fun, that's all.
Yep. Agents aren't recruiters, and we get that. So,
We don't expect you to be.
no, but if you can help us grow, we only become stronger as a company. That's kind of the theory behind it.
So anyway, and this is between now and the end of September, right?
Yeah, so it's gonna start now to the end of September, and basically anybody that joins by the end of September is when you're gonna get your $75 Amazon gift card, and anybody referred to me goes all the way up to September also. And the reason why we're doing it 60 days is, if you refer somebody to me, there's no guarantee they're gonna join this month. It's typically about a month and a half process typically for people to join. So I kinda want to stretch it out for 60 days to reward you guys.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Do you have anything else? No? Okay. Coverage while you're out of town. I want to touch on just a kind of housekeeping things now before we go to the topic. From time to time, people go out of town on a trip, or they're not accessible as they would be while they're here. And about half the time, they don't enlist any help. They just want to deal with it from a distance. That's not always a good idea, because if you're on a plane or you have time sensitive issues or whatever, I just encourage you to consider finding a realtor, finding someone who can cover while you're gone and be a partner on that transaction and work out something that makes it worth their while, whether it's a percentage or a dollar figure at closing, something, so that we have access to somebody who is aware of your file here locally. We've come across situations over the last few weeks where the agent was not accessible, out of country, out of state, on the plane, different time zone or whatever, and then time sensitive, time deadlines came and went before they could get to it. That's happened. So don't think it's just gonna be always just easy to cover while you're out of town. Just an encouragement to, don't be afraid to ask for help from somebody, and don't be afraid to pay for that help. Okay, that's all. Columbia Sportswear, Nikki's not in here, but you hopefully saw the email. There's a Columbia Sportswear night for More Realty or Day. It was on Basecamp, so just call your attention to that. Or, well, there's a window, I'm sorry, for back to school shopping, it's like a month and a half where you get some discounts by being part of More Realty, so watch for that in Basecamp.
But I've worked with them before, but they will actually give it to us once a month, and if we decide that we want it more than that, they'll allow us to come, but we have to just request it.
Yep, so you get discounts at Columbia Sportswear now, so thank you, Nikki, put that together for us.
Yeah.
Amazon and More Gives, just so you know, I've set up an Amazon discount, so anyone who shops on Amazon, if you go to a special link I'll send out, they'll donate a portion of your sale to More Gives Foundation, so that's out there now. Also, I've got some gifts on my thing here, I'm just gonna hit play. So there it is. Who's that? You know who that is?
Ron Swanson.
Ron Swanson, like, Ron Swanson for president, right? Just one encouragement to be wise. Coming across more and more situations where you're being filmed while you show home. It's actually quite common with the Ring cameras and everything. And I've actually, over the last couple weeks, got some feedback. They were laughing while they were looking at my fridge. I'm upset. Okay, so, but, you know, in one case, someone had their dog poop in their front yard and didn't clean it up.
Oh, wow.
And
And
so-
so they're holding an open house.
While they're holding an open house, and they weren't supposed to bring a dog, and anyway.
Yeah.
Just be wise. Just be wise when you're showing homes anymore. just figure that somehow there's a Ring camera on the doorbell or somewhere in the house, and just act accordingly. Okay? And people get kind of sensitive in their houses because of things. Even if you sit in the cat chair and kind of lounge, they're watching you, and it's a different age. Quick story. Oh gosh, about 10 years ago, I was at a home inspection that took 4 hours out in Hillsboro, and I was so bored because you didn't have Wi-Fi. Different time, right? So I grabbed the remote and I just turned the TV on just for some white noise. And about 10 minutes later, their seller came home, and just furious that I invaded her privacy by doing that. And okay, I felt weird doing it, but I just, Price is Right was on. Okay, whatever. I just played it because I was just bored. But she came home, and that was people. My point is, people get very sensitive about their houses. So when you show them, just figure that someone's watching. And they probably should let you know, but just know it's not. So just a reminder to be wise. Okay. Anything else before we go into our topic of representation? Anything else you want to ask about or talk about? No? Okay. So again, as a reminder, this is a CE hour today. We're going to talk about representation and different scenarios in representation, because we get a lot of questions about this lately, especially in certain environments, whether it's FSBO or other things. So we're going to talk about that today. It is a CE hour. Don't forget to sign in. If you haven't, where's the clipboard? Right there? Okay, be sure you hit that clipboard. So in representation, what does that mean when we represent? What does that mean when you say in the real estate world, representation? Raise your hand and just don't just shout out. Yeah, Nikki.
Fiduciary duty to a customer, to a client.
We'll say that again, I'm sorry.
Fiduciary duty.
There's a fiduciary duty to a client or customer. Okay, good. Yes?
Just looking out for your client's best interest.
Looking out for your client's best interest. Yeah, Stella?
You are acting on their behalf.
You are their representative. You're in a way acting on their behalf with limitations, meaning when someone sends you notification on something or an addendum, that's if it's been received by the client. That's in the offer and everything. So you represent them. So don't hang on to that stuff, get it to them because it's deemed as been received then. Other comments on representation?
You have confidentiality to your client.
Yep.
What you have is in between you two.
Yep, there's implied trust, right?
Right.
Your trust. And so there's some scenarios where you do represent and don't represent, and when you should and should not. And that's kind of what we want to talk about today. So I'm going to move on. I can't remember what gifts I got. So can I ever just offer advice? I'm going to play this one just because it's Dwight Schrute, right? Honestly, I show you, here's how I'm going to help you from now on. I'm going to not care. Is that what you want to do? Or come across as? No, it's not. But if anyone calls and just says, they just want some advice. Is that okay? If you just have a friend, right? These are all, everything I'm going to talk about today is based upon questions I've received in about a week. Okay, so it's kind of timely and relevant in many things. So you're a licensed realtor and everybody knows it. First of all, do people really value what we do?
Not necessarily.
Yeah, sometimes what they see is, well, you're just a lawyer that couldn't pass the bar.
Right.
Right? You couldn't do anything else. That's kind of sometimes how they view realtors. But sometimes they don't value our expertise. And sometimes it's justified and earned, and sometimes it's not. But if anyone just says, talking wherever, and they just start asking advice, can you just offer advice?
Sure.
Sure. Tom says sure. With some limits. Is that Terry?
You can offer your opinion, but I don't know if that would be advice.
Okay.
Depends on what it is.
Depends what it is. Stella?
Common
I
sense.
don't like to do it at all.
Did you have a comment?
Then they go hire a rent agent.
Did you say?
Like, I don't want to be representing you if you're taking my advice. I don't know if that's what it's supposed
Okay.
to be, but.
Were you trying to say something? I'm sorry. No, okay. Any other comments on that? Can someone just ask questions? These are all good comments. Yeah, with some limits, right? What if someone says, I have a realtor and I don't like them and I think we got it priced wrong. Here's what they said. What should your response be?
You're under a contractual agreement.
Well, okay, I've heard several things. You're under a contract agreement with that realtor?
With that realtor
And?
and It's not up to me to give you information.
I really can't give you information. While you're under contract, I really can't advise or guide you in any way.
Right.
You need to go back to them, but as long as you have that contract in force, I really can't help you with that. No one else can either. Well, can you just tell me from price too high? Not really. I can't.
That would be advice.
Because why? I don't represent them, right? And start giving them advice. And representation kind of means advice and guidance, right? I'm giving them some guidance and direction related to something. But if someone says, hey, look, I'm thinking about listing my house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Hillsboro, what do you think I could get for that? Can I talk to them?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, you can, but I'm also gonna say, before I answer, do you currently have a realtor? Because a lot of times, they don't tell you in that. And they say, yeah, if they say, yeah, I do, but I'm just not sure. Have you signed an agreement with them? No, okay. And you kind of have to be careful about when people just wanna ask questions to make sure you're not overstepping the bounds you shouldn't be in. Because it can come back and bite you. It could become an ethics complaint, it could be all kinds of stuff. You be very, very careful. If someone is upset at their realtor, should you pile on and say, yeah, I hear they're a jerk? They got a terrible reputation. Is that good to do? It's an ethics violation. You can't do that. You could get called out on that as an ethics violation. Even if it's true, right? Is it true on some cases? Yes. Not saying any names, present company excluded, right? But there are people out there who are very difficult to work with. And you should never convey that to a client. Yeah, now can I say, well, if you're unhappy, you are free to make decisions and changes. I can say that. But I'm not going to say, yeah, if you're unhappy with that guy, you might want to make a change and here's how you do it. It's probably a little too much. Because then it could come back. But so oftentimes as a realtor, people that are in the business, they just want to ask advice. You need to be careful. So what if you don't represent them, they don't have a realtor, I want to get a price, how do you market, how do you do that, how do I bring a buyer, what if I want to represent myself? You can answer some general questions, but you have to be careful that you don't appear to be representing them. At some point you might have to say, look, who was it? Joe Sparks was here. She had a client that had a vacant lot for listing, and they kept coming back with her for all kinds of questions, CMAs, how do you market a vacant land? And I finally said, do you have an agreement with these people? She says, no, they're just asking me general questions. I said, okay, these are the kind of questions at this point where you should say, look, you need to ask these questions of who's going to represent you. So, am I going to represent you? It's a close, right? A way to get the commitment from them. They say, sure, great, sign here. And I can continue to talk further. In essence, right? I'm shortening the conversation, right? But that's what you're going to want to do. If they say, well, I'm not sure yet, say, well, you need to settle in on who's going to represent you and ask these questions of them. That is just fine. You don't have to go, you don't owe the public information for your time for free. But at some point, you need to make sure to deflect to the person who's going to has the authority to represent them. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the other one. This was kind of funny. I saw this about who's going to represent who for Crazy Cat. Okay, for sale by owners. One side of for sale by owners is how many for sale by owners actually go get listed with a realtor, percentage wise? Out of 100 homes that go for sale by owner, how many of those end up listing with a realtor? 85 out of 100. 85%. But people think they can do it on themselves. They think they can, right? Oh, I forgot to put one on here. I'm gonna talk about limited representation. I forgot to add that to my list here on limited representation, but we'll talk about for sale by owner and limited representation right now. So if there's a house for sale by owner, and they don't want to sign a listing agreement with you, can you offer them advice at that point? You really can't. You don't represent them. And sometimes people think, well, just tell me what I want to know. You can't hold your information hostage. Yeah, I can. I can't. I can't help you with that because you've chosen to represent yourself. I don't represent you. What would be some, for examples, do you think, in that situation that they would ask you that you should? What's that?
Marketing and pricing.
Yeah.
Anything on price right?
Am I priced right? You can say, well, you're probably pretty close or whatever. You can answer general questions. Why am I not getting any showings? Well, because, can I answer that question?
Marketing.
Well, you're not in the MLS. 95% of the people find their home via an MLS feed these days, and you're not there. So what are the options for that client?
Limited representation.
So what does that mean, limited representation?
That means,
Yes, it is. What's that mean?
means that you can help them with certain things, contracts, putting things in the RMLS for a small fee.
And
You're
also-
mostly right,
also,
respectfully.
If they find someone on their own, they don't pay them.
But, okay, let's talk, come back to that, but if I want, what does limited representation in the MLS mean? Is that an option we can provide?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You just upload the listing.
You enter the MLS,
That's it.
that's it. And when an offer comes in, can you advise the client on the offer?
No.
You can't. Can you help them craft a counteroffer?
No.
You can't. Can you give them the form? Yeah, you give the form. Here's the form you need. And they say, well, what do I do? I say, well, I don't represent you. I literally cannot help you. I can't advise you on these forms. I can give you the form, but I can't tell you what to do on them. Yes?
Can they change their mind or
Yep. So, good question. Why would it be, I'm going to answer the question with a question. Why would it be a good idea to sometimes help people that way?
Because they changed their mind.
Because 85% of them change their mind.
Then they'll hire you to represent them.
And they'll hire you. So what I've done in the past is I said, look, okay, I will do a limited representation. Understand, I cannot help you with anything. I can give you the forms. I can put you in MLS, I can sign the yard, but that's it. Lockbox, that's it. When an offer comes in, I can't help you. I need a copy of it, and I have to review it and store a copy in my office, but I can't even advise you on if it's a good deal or what to look for. Can you look through the offer and go, whoa, wait a minute, they've got a 30-day inspection period, that's a bad deal. Can you even do that? You can't. Because now guess what I'm doing? I am representing them, right? But guess what happens when an offer comes in?
They call you.
And they say, how do I read this? Say, well, I can't help you because it's limited representation. If you'd like to if you'd like to convert to a more in-depth representation, I will do it for this much money or this percentage point. You can make a change. Yep, but if I can't even advise you. There are many hands in the air. Just a minute. I gotta go with memory here. Jane, you had your hand? Who has a hand? Who has a question? Just raise your hand really quick. Okay. Jane first.
Why would you even give them the forms? Because your name is on all the paperwork.
Because you're okay with that. It's okay with that. I mean, you talk about the bottom?
Yeah.
That's just a license to use. That's not a
But
problem.
it still is able to come back.
It's not. Nope, it won't. It won't come back to bite you because the form is just licensed. I'm authorized to give you a copy of the form, but in no way, that being at the bottom of these zip forms in no way establishes an agency relationship or a representation relationship. It doesn't. That's just the name. I'm licensed to use that form. I can give it to whomever I want. But it doesn't, it's not a binding thing whatsoever. Here's the form, but I didn't advise you on it.
You know, signing it.
So you're not signing anything. Matter of fact, the listening agreement says limited representation, you're on your own. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna keep moving, Terry.
I know that RMLS made it very difficult to sign back up for zip forms this last time I renewed. And I think part of that is because they don't want people sharing. So somebody asked me for a form once, and I said, okay, I'm sending it to you in my email. I said, but I know you're not gonna use this in any legal capacity.
So let me ask you this question, and you may or may not wanna answer it. Was there any representation, can you just hand your paperwork to any random people? No, don't do that. But if I have a limited representation or any kind of representation agreement in place, sure. But if I don't, just someone in the street says, hey, I'm gonna go buy a house, I don't want your help, can you have some paperwork? No. The answer is no.
Yeah, it was a septic sewers form.
For somebody, can't help you. Sorry, I can't help you, I don't represent you. Yeah, I can't give you access to my forms. That would be inappropriate, James. But if you were to do a limited representation, offer comes in and say, what do I do? You say, well, what do you want to do? I'm not sure. Well, I don't represent you. Well, I want to counter. Okay, here's the form. How do I fill it out? Can't help you. That's limited representation. So the reason people do limited representation, or at least Eric and I have kind of worked on some of this stuff in the past, is because knowing that 85% will end up back looking for a realtor. I will do a limited representation for you if contractually you decide to go live with a realtor. I am the only realtor you work with. You see what I mean? So you can leverage it that way. So that's one thing for sale by owners. But if a for sale by owner calls you kind of piggyback on Terry's, and they're a friend, and say, hey, I'm for sale by owner, I don't have the forms, and I just wanna, my neighbor wants to buy it, or my tenant wants to buy it, can you give me the forms? Can you do that? You can't do that. How could you do that? There's a way, how could you?
Right, limited. You
Say that?
you can set up a limited representation and just give them the form.
Limited representation could give them the forms, yep, that's one way. You could establish a limited representation, which is how? It's a listing agreement,
Yeah.
okay?
Fee agreement?
A fee agreement,
What about title?
a fee agreement possibly. A fee agreement clearly states on there, there is no agency relationship established, right? Were you gonna say something?
A one-party listing. That's
So,
the way-
a one-party listing is really just a listing agreement with something in the comments. There's no one-party listing agreement, just so you know. You won't find it. It's a listing agreement, you say on there, limited representation or for this party. But you could do that as well. Or, what if the buyer comes to you and says, well, I want help too? These are real world scenarios within the last week. Now you got a seller saying, I need help, and the buyer doesn't know what to do either. What are your options? Does limited representation help that scenario? No, it doesn't. So, what you do, there's no shortcut. You take a listing agreement, you can exclude it from the RMLS, because that spells out your compensation, it gives you authority, and it gives you all the protection in there. If they misrepresent, you now have protection from the seller agrees to hold you harmless if they misrepresent something, and everything's in place. It's paperwork, but also all the protections there. So you take a quick listing agreement, you can put in the comments for this buyer only, limited representation, excludes from the MLS, whatever, or not limited representation, you say for this party only, and then on the offer, you check the box, and then what else do you give everybody? Disclose limitations for buyers and sellers. I now represent both of you, and you acknowledge that, and you acknowledge I'm representing both of you.
What do you charge for that?
Whatever you want.
What's standard?
There really isn't one. There isn't a standard. I've done
1,500
I've done 3%, because when I represent both parties, it's not always less work.
Right.
Sometimes it's more work. But you also have to be careful that we'll come back to dual agency in a minute, but don't just assume you're going to do a dual agency, because there's some pitfall. We're gonna actually some training on dual agency this month. So what do you charge is really whatever. I mean, if it's my mom, I didn't charge her anything, right? If it's someone who just wants help and it's really already done, I'm just processing paperwork, a couple $1,000 or whatever, or 2%. It's really whatever. Now, if we were a different kind of shop, like some of the bigger shops, we'd have a minimum requirement of 5 or 6%. That's just what some shops do. They say, and why is that?
Because of-
Well, not just that. It's not okay.
They want their.
It's part of that's their money. That's
Right.
why. When it's not, because we don't do that, you're going to pay $100 at closing. Charge $100 if you want to do it for free, right? That way you can at least cover what you owe us. Does that make sense?
Right.
So whatever it depends on the situation, depends on circumstances, depends on what they've done, and it's really just what you're comfortable doing. Your E&O deductible is $5,000. Bear that in mind. So sometimes people like to cover that.
Just remember, if you are going to exclude from the RMLS, you have to send that form into the RMLS as well.
Yep,
So
mark
don't
the
forget to
exclusion,
do
send
that.
it in. Yep. So what else about for sale by owners? Questions that you might have? I saw a lot of hands. I saw your hand up a minute ago.
My answer is what, questions.
You got it answered. Anyone else not have an unanswered question here or concern?
If you do go in contract with limited representation, they do change their mind, they wanna, you have to review the offer, you do an addendum, or?
You could do an addendum, but it just says, hey, this is now converted to an exclusive representation, recording the terms set forth in the listing agreement, that kind of thing. Exclusive right, exclusive agency. There's ways to do that, yeah.
And you have to include the percentage, right, on the,
You should.
yeah.
Yeah, and you should establish a fee, the fee is now this,
Yeah.
and the seller signs off on it. But it's doable, but just keep in mind, 85% of these for sale by owners, that's why he's like, ha ha ha, because it's an opportunity, right? Anyway, so, but just know that if someone's doing for sale by owner and just want your help, no, you gotta have something in place to be able to do that. Oops. Anything else on this? Yeah.
Can we solicit for sale by owners?
Sure.
I mean, in media, print media, or websites, or?
People do that all the time, right, Eric? I mean, there's websites.
You just have to be careful about the do not call list and other things like that, but certainly, there's ways to do it.
And just know there are 300 of the realtors doing the same thing. These for sale by owners get hit pretty good. But there's also these limited representation companies out there. There's forsalebyowner.com, and there's thousands of them, right?
I'm talking about soliciting before they're for sale by owner.
Before they, if you can get in front of them, yeah, I'm not sure how you would know they're gonna go for sale by owner. But yeah. You can market to anyone if you're careful about the do not call list and things like that. Dual agency. Okay, this is here's the GIF on that.
Oh,
Okay.
John.
Is dual agency, can it be a little scary?
Yes.
It can be. So company policy, first of all, back up to the agency, go really to the foundation. The agency allows for dual agency. What does dual agency mean? Okay, there's two kinds of dual agency. Dual agency is technically what?
Represented by and seller.
Who's representing? Okay, it's even more basic than that. Dual agency is if any two of you are on the same transaction. That's dual agency. Did you know that?
Say that again.
If you represent buyer, you represent seller, that's dual agency, and why? It goes back to the PB, right?
Right.
It's actually PB's license, so that's technically dual agency, right? So dual agency requires you to have a limited or DLA, and you'd have a DLA. For sure. DLA is mandatory in that case, that all parties are aware, right? Because that document is saying you understand basically that we're in the same company, but we're going to represent you, right? So when you don't, but we asked for the dual agency on every transaction, every listing, and every buyer and seller, just in case, because that may happen. You can't predict when you take a listing who's going to bring the buyer. We have 325 realtors now. There's a chance it's going to be one of ours. So just because that, every transaction we ask for the DLA for buyers or sellers, just to have it on file. Okay. So there's another layer of dual agency where you individually, yeah, Chris.
So just to be clear on that, you're supposed to give them that pamphlet when you had first contact with them.
Mm-hmm.
So just having that signed and on file, like on your computer somewhere, you can't just upload that to a new transaction. You actually have to get it signed for each offer that you.
No.
Oh,
So the
okay.
pamphlet has to be established. The pamphlet and DLA has to be established upon first substantive exchange of information. How many do that?
No.
Okay, it's hard to do, right? Especially the thing. Can I just ask a question? Okay, before I answer that, I'm going to give you this pamphlet. You know, who does that, right? We talk, but you need to have it on file soon. That here's the pamphlet, and the DLA on part of the DLA says I have given you the pamphlet. So we don't need necessarily initials or a signature signing on the pamphlet itself. Because if you do it correctly, the DLA along with it, they are acknowledging they've received the pamphlet. Okay? So the other layer of dual agency is where you individually are both buyer and seller. That is also allowed by the agency. But, as a reminder, as an office, you need to get pre-approval for that. There are some agents that don't want to represent both parties. What's the advantage of representing both parties?
You get both ends.
Money, right? You get twice the money, possibly. If I'm representing the seller, bring the buyer, I get the whole commission, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so does your seller have the right to say, I don't want you to represent both parties?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, they do. Should you ask them?
Yes.
Just phone call? Probably not. You can check on the offer, I represent buyer and seller, but it's good and advisable that if you're going to represent both parties, you get an addendum from the seller on a listing or some sort of addendum from the seller that says, I'm okay with you representing both parties. Okay? However, as a company, we want you to know how to do that because there's all kinds of risks. And if you've never done it before, you probably shouldn't just wing it without some help. What are the dangers or pitfalls of dual agency if you don't know what you're doing? Go ahead.
Not representing each client fairly.
Yep, either not representing each client.
Specifically to the
Yep.
client.
you're gonna add one more word to that, being perceived. Not being perceived as representing both clients, right? So why would that be a risk? So one of the parties come back and say, it's not fair, you've treated me unfairly. You represented them more than you represented me. That's a risk. If you just, and it's not hard to do, as long as you understand how to do it and how to kind of word things and that, but you just need to be aware. So what are the other dangers and pitfalls? I saw some hands, yeah.
Disclosure?
Disclosure, what do you mean?
Well, so if I have the conversation with the seller, I'm gonna list your property and I intend to try and sell it. So don't tell me you're gonna take less than what you're putting it on the market for. So they can't come back and say, well, Joyce, what a coincidence, they're out there offering exactly what I told you I would take.
Right.
I didn't quite follow that.
Well, disclose, if they tell you a material fact, you have to disclose that. If a buyer says I'll pay more, or a seller says I'll take less, that, you know, that to me, if you have that discussion with them, you know, before you even get into contract, then that won't come back up.
Oh, okay. I think I see what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
a hard time putting the words in my mind to repeat it back. However, when I take a listing, this is what I do. You don't have to do it this way. Yeah, it's 5%, but if I represent both sides, it's 3.5. So they know that if I happen to bring in both sides, okay, I'll cut you a break. Or if I help you buy two, I'll cut you a break, and you know, I mean, I do some things like that. You can do that. Other questions? Yes.
The biggest thing would be negotiation.
Yeah, you have to be very careful that you don't be looking like you're talking someone into something. Okay, what if, well, I could talk about all kinds of scenarios. We're gonna have in-depth training on, what was it? 27th of this month, on dual agency, and if you, what we want is you've already reached out and said, can I dual agency, and we've said, sure, go ahead. Not so worried about that, you're kind of pre-approved because of experience and we know and things like that. But if you've never done dual agency, we really want you to get some more specific training on that because of some risks and pitfalls and some tips and tricks how to avoid the perception. It is a litigious society, like it or not, and real estate is one of those industries you can be absolutely perfect and still be at risk. Simply because you don't know who you're going to come across sometimes, right? And if it's perceived that you're representing one party above the other in a dual agency, that's where you can kind of into some trouble. I was not even a dual agent one time, and I was representing an Intel engineer. And we saw hundreds of homes, I swear, and wrote an offer on a place he wanted, and it was like a $580,000 house back in 2008-ish, something like that. And we got down to negotiating over $200. It was on our 7th counter.
Wow. Oh,
and I'm like, and we were like, we started out like 2,000 apart, and after 7 counters, we're now 200 apart. He wanted to counter again. And I said, and I simply said a comment such as, is it really worth countering over $200 at this point? And he says, are you not representing me and doing what I want? And I'm like, whoop, okay. And all of a sudden, here's an engineer over $200. There's this ominous lingering, you're not representing me? And I said, look, tell you what, I'll pay the $200. I don't want to do the paperwork. I'll just pay can we be done? And I'll hand you $200, you know, whatever. And, okay. But my point is you don't know how people are going to react to something. You might think you know them, and you might, but sometimes people don't know. And at some point along the way, they might perceive something as, hey, you didn't represent me on that. And all of a sudden, now you have something to kind of deal with. So you have to be very, very careful. So dual agency, yes, it's doable with company approval. And all we ask is we don't forbid people. Some people don't even want to do it. I know Jane doesn't do it, right? She will not do dual agency because she doesn't want to deal with the risk. She doesn't get greedy about the money. I'm not calling it greedy. She doesn't look at the money. She looks at, I want to live a calm life. You know what I mean? That's worth it to her. And so she'll just represent it or defer it out to another realtor if she has a buyer call. Right? That's what you do. So there's others that do that. Yeah, Matthew.
Another thing too is a lot of time buyers think that they can do a discount.
Yes.
They offer get a better deal by using the listing agent and making an offer that way so we can get a better price.
Yep. So let's talk about that for a second.
I'm doing it right now.
Are you?
Yes.
and it's been awful.
It's awful, and you oftentimes get a call from a buyer saying they want to either represent themselves to save the money.
That's what it is.
First of all, is that how that works?
It's an investment.
It's not how it works.
And that's a very
At all.
good agent, experienced, busy agent saying that. For those
Yeah, Tracy's been
Yeah,
around the block.
honestly, I'm really not making anything on both ends, just because I had to get my sellers buying a new home that was building it, and so we were on contingency of that. And the builder was like, okay, you need to either be yes or no, otherwise we're moving on to another buyer and stuff, so I had to do it. But my seller's the one that said, if you can represent both, and then the buyers, which he's an investor, he said, this is what I can come in at. So basically I'm getting nothing.
That side's
besides.
free, right?
Yeah.
I've had to do that too on one because it was going to be a short sale.
Yeah.
A few years ago in Cornell, but they're buying in Carlton, and I said, okay, I'll do this one over here. And then I come to find out after we closed, they went on a trip to Mexico. I'm like, okay, so you had the money somewhere. We weren't going to be short. And secondly, they're just went around telling people what a great guy it was that did it for free. And I said, stop right now. Don't you ever tell anyone that again. I've never done that way before. I'll never do it again. But so what happens sometimes is you'll have a buyer call you as a listing agent and say, hey, I'm going to represent myself so we can save the buyer's commission. First of all, is that how that works? Does a buyer side get any say about? They don't. And I explained it that way. I said, that's not how this works. You don't just automatically save money. You're not involved in the contract with the seller about what they're paying.
Right.
You might want to just get yourself somebody to represent you. Well, I'm going to write an offer. Okay, great. Send me an offer.
I close on a Friday, so then I'm gonna be really.
Now, but I'm not your situation. Certainly you have to make a decision at some point and say, okay, I'm going to do this. I've done it. We've all done something. But taking that one aside, if a buyer says, well, I'm going to submit an offer, you can literally say, okay, go ahead. And that's it. I don't represent you. Give me an offer.
Here's my.
And if they say, I had someone come in on California paperwork. They just reject it. And they said, well, there's an offer. No, we're rejecting it. It's the wrong paperwork. Did you have your hand up? No, were you yawning? But you don't have to, the buyer, when you have a listing, the buyer does not get to wag what you take as a fee. It's none of their business at all.
Well, see, and I came into a situation too where, so they're buying the house as an investment. So on part of the contract, it was that we had to say that it was okay for them to advertise for it to be a rent, for them looking for a renter or whatever. Well, then it all changes, and then he wants to start having the showings and telling my seller, says, Tris, I need to be in the house Wednesday night and Thursday night from 6 to 7 to show renter, possible tenants. And my sellers went ballistic. They're like,
yeah, they should.
That was a part of the agreement. And so then you kind of get into where, okay, now I got to go back to the buyer, and so I need to know that, or let him know that, I'm trying to say this in the best way that's representing both people. However, we did not agree to that. We agreed just for you to advertise it on the internet. So there is no.
The best way to do that is just say, I've been asked to pass on from the seller.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
That phrase,
basically
when
how
you
we
dual
summed
agent,
up.
when you represent both sides, that's like the seller has asked me to pass on, the buyer has
Yeah.
asked me to pass on.
Yeah, say we.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And first of all, that's the same thing on any transaction. It's not your decision or you're calling anything, right? Anyway, so anything else on dual agency or anything we talked about right there? I mean, we could literally spend hours on these topics, so.
Which tells you something.
Okay, can I represent two buyers on the same listing? So this is happening more and more where I have a listing, or there's a listing, and I have two buyers I've been showing homes for. They both want to write an offer on the same property. Can I do that?
No.
What, can I do that?
No.
Yes.
No.
So you're saying yes, just to be different.
I see, yes.
Because the answer is technically, you
I can.
can put pen to paper and do it, but is it allowed
No.
by the office? No. Is it a good idea? No. Think of the risks. Again, back to the same thing where you wrote two offers on that? Well, surely you shared my offer information with that one.
She said, yeah.
Well, you can't prove it, but it's still the perception, right? The best way to handle that when it comes in, I'm showing, no.
John.
Oh my gosh. Serrano.
Yeah.
Why am I drawing a blank on the first name? L. Luis Serrano, sorry. I knew it was an L. I was getting L and Serrano. They're going to call you Leonardo somehow. Lee, I'm showing them both homes. Scott's, and all of a sudden we find Scott's home, they don't know each other, right? And they both say, I wanna write an offer. And I've got this call several times recently, what should I do as that agent?
Refer it. Refer
I can do a temporary referral to somebody in the office. Hey, Megan is my good friend, I trust her. Megan, I have 2 buyers on the same property. Would you pick up one to write an offer and represent them for now? If the offer gets accepted, they're gonna be kicked right back to me and I'll give you 5% of clothing, or 10% or whatever you wanna work out. I'll give you $100 for your time. She now picks it up. Is it dual agency?
Yes.
Yes. Are you representing both parties? No. So you've insulated yourself from the risk. And whichever offer gets accepted, you're my clients. I'm going to represent whoever offer gets represented. And the other one, we're going to go find another house. It's a temporary way to protect yourself from the potential risk. Yeah.
So you're saying if you show the house and then you get another person interested in the exact same house, you shouldn't show it to them?
You can show it to them.
Okay.
But when it comes time to write the offer, they both say, I want to write an offer. You should pick up the phone to someone you trust in the office and just say, hey, look, I need you to grab this buyer. They want to both, I have 2 buyers want to write off on the same property. Would you represent them? However, if that offer gets accepted, I'm going to take right back over. Because that means the other one was rejected. Right?
Like a referral.
Like a referral. I'm going to refer it to you temporarily. In the event it gets accepted, you're giving it right back. But in exchange, I'm going to give you whatever. Don't do it for $50. Don't be that cheap.
Yeah.
Come on, Jane?
So how do you handle that? Once the one that got rejected, I'm thinking this through in my head. How do you explain that?
You tell them up front. You tell both your clients, say, look, I have 2 clients, I have you and another one, to write an offer on the same property.
Right.
I can't write them both. So I've got someone I trust here, Megan, she's a fabulous agent. She's gonna write the offer for you. If yours gets accepted, she's gonna hand it right back to me.
Thank you.
It's that simple. And the client should be, okay, that makes sense. I just don't want to know about their offer. I have to make sure I represent you aggressively. Is that gonna make you feel better? Yeah? But then have the other client say, someone else is gonna write your offer for you. I wanna make sure you're aggressively represented independent of these other people, so that you have the best chance to get your offer accepted without you feeling like there's something weird going on here. It's just about putting a layer of protection. Remember, everything we do in real estate, all these training, all these classes, all this paperwork and everything is all about risk management. That's all it is. When you start talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars for people, sometimes millions, there's risk involved. Why do you think we have E&O? By the way, I found out yesterday, I met with a law firm yesterday on a couple ideas on something I'm working on. You know what, a year. That's a law. Guess what happens if you ever claim? It doubles. It's just an addendum. It's not a big deal. It's an addendum later.
Okay.
Just saying, hey, I'm handing it right back to, everybody knows. The seller won't
Fill it
care.
out as if it was their own.
Now, if where you run it or something, it's hard to prove. I don't know why that. Other questions on that? Pretty simple. Let's see. They just want help with the paperwork and my gift for that. Can you do that? Can you just we already kind of talked about this. Can you just hand them blank paperwork? No. I have a realtor. They're not explaining this correctly to me. Can you help answer a couple of questions for me? No. Heavens no. You can't do that. I don't like my realtor. I have a listing. I don't like my realtor. I don't think they're doing a good job. What do I do?
Tell them to fire your realtor.
Oh my gosh. While you're under contract with your realtor, I'm not able to help you. So if you want to make a change, you'll have to sort that out between you and them. Once you're out of contract, I can help you. That's it. And that's it. Can you please just answer a quick question? I can't. It's not even necessarily a court. I mean, you just have to deal with the ethics of it. But there is a risk. But again, you don't represent them. You should not be advising them. Okay, so, but we've been getting that from time to time. They just want help with answering the questions with paperwork. Okay, let's address this a little bit differently. Can I do that? I can if I establish the agency relationship accordingly. The question is, who am I representing? Well, both of us. Okay, you're both on the same page? That's fine. Listing agreement with me, or listing agreement with you, buyer's agreement with, and just the residence agreement with you. DLA in place. and now all the paperwork's up front. I could do an exclusion, it goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago. I can do that, usually have the right things in place. I get calls all the time, how do I shortcut this? There's no shortcut. Don't eliminate the risk management of the paperwork, right? Don't do that to yourself. Have the listing agreement. You can exclude it, but in a listing agreement, it says you will hold me harmless for any misrepresentations on your part. If you try and bypass that, guess what you're missing? That protection, right?
Yeah.
So why would you do that? Don't step outside the paperwork that's there. It's not perfect. It's squirrely as all get out. There's all kinds of twists and turns that need to be corrected in the paperwork, but it's the best we've got right now. Don't try and create your own. Make sense? What time is it? We're good. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be perfect time.
5 minutes.
Any questions on this? Are we talking about?
Can I make
Sorry.
a statement?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just 'cause Tom's comment scares me.
Tom scares
you? Yeah, just please keep in mind, because I've had that happen to me, where people don't know anything about real estate.
You know.
And they're going to the other 8 realtors they know when they're listed with you and saying, I don't know if my realtors, you know, can you tell them what you think? And, you know, it's just realize you've already told them 3 times how and where and why their house is worth what. And they're just talking to their other realtor friends. And you just don't want that done to you, you know. Oh, well, terminate with them. Terminate, sign with me, you'd have to terminate. I mean, that's not,
You can't do that.
Just.
Shouldn't do that.
Just, you
No.
wouldn't want it done to you, that's what you do to somebody
I was
else.
only kidding.
I know.
Yeah, we just wanna make sure we're clear though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Good coverage, good coverage.
Yeah. And what goes around comes around, right? If you're doing that to someone who's gonna come around to you, you just don't wanna deal with that. And we are a self-policing industry, by and large, right? So when you get turned in for something, it's usually by another realtor, most of the time. Where you've crossed the line somewhere, that's what happens. I've been to PMAR many times with people to help them. I've been to PMAR on my own, had to defend myself, and been victorious. I mean, none of that should scare you, unless you're in the wrong. Then you need to be nervous, right?
Not to mention karma.
Oh, karma too. So, we've touched on a lot of things superficially. Just really quickly, and SkySlope, 2 things. If you are a dual agent, if I'm representing both buyer and seller, you don't create 2 files in SkySlope. Just keep moving forward with the same file. Okay? Understand?
Yes.
First of all, to be a dual agent, what do you need?
Your approval.
Our approval. Are we just going to withhold it willy-nilly and just try and be mean because there's some reason to be mean?
That's
No.
very mean.
It's just about making sure we know what we're doing and protecting it for the whole. All it takes is one bad transaction to take an entire company down. That's really kind of the industry we're in. If someone files a $10 million lawsuit because of whatever, because someone screwed up, I mean, it changes everything, right? Doesn't mean you can't change the name and revote. I mean, you can do crap, but you just have to be careful. So this is all about just making sure you're safe. So, second thing, if we have a listing in the office, you have the listing and you have the buyer, you don't use the same transaction in SkySlope. You have your own files. You have the buyer transaction, you have the listing one, and loading the buy stuff and move forward. We have 2 separate ones. Because they're 2 separate clients, need to be insulated and separate from each other. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Thank you for these notes here, Melissa. Just a quick second. Yeah, as soon as you have, just a reminder, whenever you have paperwork signed, fully executed, you need to create a file in SkySlope. We're going to start sending out reminders. Is that already going? When you take a new listing, we're still coming across some files where we don't have paperwork until a check arrives. And that's not good, and there will be some measures taken on a case-by-case basis. But whenever you take a listing or get a transaction, all the paperwork is signed, you need to be creating a SkySlope file and load it immediately. Please. There's no reason to be, and this isn't common, this isn't unique to just Moore. I mean, this is our industry, right? And where I've been, you get a check show up and go, okay, what's this for? Everywhere. For the last 15 years I've been doing this. So it's not like it's our problem, but it's a reminder of the industry, okay? I think I'm out of time here. Reminder about marketing approval needs to be approved. There's ways to do that. Send it to the ORPB at Moore Realty, we'll approve your marketing. We're gonna have a fair housing class because we get a lot of questions about close to, why is that flagged? Nearby, why is that flagged?
Great family home. those
Great
are
family
things that
home,
we
can't
can-
use the word family because you're offending somebody somewhere, that's what it's all about, yeah.
If you have like a template that's already been approved, can you just get every single brochure?
A template approved for,
Like if you, like, you make one template for a listing and then you use the same template for like your next future listings, do you have to get each one approved?
technically, yeah.
Cause it's a new listing.
It's the description, the price, and that. And so what the best thing to do is, what I recommend you do is send your request from the SkySlope file. That when we reply, the approval is already in the file. That's what you should be doing. That's the easiest way. Because you know that every SkySlope file has an email address you can email from. Just say, can you please approve the attached? And when we reply approve, that actually just drops right into the SkySlope file. It's stored. And when the agency comes knocking on marketing, they don't knock on our door, they knock on your door first. And then if there's been, then we kind of go, well, we approve that, and then we come with some responsibility, but they come and knock on your door first. So you just want to be careful. Again, nothing we do is punitive or restrictive or anything, it's just about keeping it safe. And I'm running out of time here. So anything, other last questions or comments or? Oh, yeah.
I will forward my communications through email and text into my SkySlope file, so it's always there.
Yep.
I do it as policy, so it's like when I go to text or email or send or receive, it just automatically goes in there.
Yep. Just remember, whatever you put in there could be subpoenaed one day.
Exactly.
This guy's a jerk. I wouldn't put that in there. Right?
I wouldn't want
The relevant
something
things.
in there that I would say to the public not
Yep.
having it.
And always remember, whatever you put in writing is what matters. It's not what you say verbally, it's what's in writing. Don't negotiate counteroffers on via email. Don't negotiate counteroffers on the phone. You can ask a general question. Hey, if we submit this, is it worth our time? You can actually say that, but don't sit there and say, well, we're going to counter at 3:30. Is that acceptable? That's not binding, right? You just send the paperwork, let them respond. I'm trying to think, what else is there? Anything else? So much data, we could talk forever.
Just a reminder on the manufactured home and parks, if you're not certified to do that and sign the new comp plan, you're
Yep.
not supposed to perform those.
Yeah, just a reminder, so they can hear in the back. We do have manufactured home and park. You want to do it, you can. You need to get approved. I mean, just to make sure you get some basic training, because it's not a real estate transaction. And there's a separate comp plan for manufactured home and park. You just click close our first. Here we got, yeah. Dave Bosso, is he here? We got everyone come through today, so. Anything else? Thank you. Hopefully none of this is boring to you, but it's just, this is for me the job, right? And so,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Now, it's saying that I can't do it.
You want just the, okay, I can do that.